إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدًا عبده ورسوله ونبيه وصفيه وحبيبه بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة وجاهد في سبيل الله حتى أتاه اليقين وتركنا على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في كل وقت وحين وعلى آله الأطهار وعلى أصحابه الأخيار وعلى أتباعه الأبرار إلى يوم الدين يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما وبعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وإن خير الهدي هدي سيدنا ومولانا رسول الله وإن شر الأمور لمحدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. One of the features of the Prophet's message sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that on the final Hajj, which took place in the 10th year of the Hijrah, the Prophet ﷺ announced that the calendar was now adjusted correctly because the pagan Arabs, they used to add and subtract months because in the time of Jahiliyyah, they wanted to circumvent the sacred months. In Islam, we have 4 sacred months. The pre-Islamic Arabs also acknowledged those sacred months, but they wanted to circumnavigate around them so that they could do the things that they wanted to do. Primarily, they wanted to fight and war with each other. So they would add and they would subtract. And one of the things that the Prophet ﷺ accomplished through his message is that he was able to adjust or readjust and realign the calendar such that the months were correct. Now, the interesting thing about our calendar, as we know, we have a lunar calendar, a pure lunar calendar. So we have to cite the moon sighting every month. And it was Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu who chose the hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be the year 0. That's when the calendar would start from the point of view of counting the years. But of course, throughout the life of the Prophet ﷺ, there were the 12 months beginning with Muharram and then ending with Dhul Qa'dah. Now, for over 1,440 years, we've had no correction in our calendar, which in itself, if you think about it, is a miracle. All the other calendar systems have had some sort of correction. There used to be a calendar system that was attributed to Alexander the Great. So if you read in some of the old Islamic books, they will date certain actions in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ according to that old calendar. I mean, I don't know if that calendar system is now, but there used to be a system of counting days, months, years that was attributed to Alexander the Great. Of course, in the other type of calendar is the solar calendar, which is what we use for our day-to-day life. But even the solar calendar that we follow, this is not the way it was always. Technically, this calendar really dates to the 16th century. We call it the Gregorian calendar. The calendar before that was the Julian calendar, established by Julius Caesar. But it was corrected because there's imperfection in the solar year. It's not exactly 365 days. So Pope Gregory, I think it was the 13th, in the mid-16th century, they recalibrated the calendar. So that's the calendar that we follow now. But our Hijri calendar, it's been the same. Muharram, Safar, Rabi al-Awwal, Rabi al-Akhir, so on and so forth until we get to the end of the year and then the cycle starts over. Because it's a natural calendar in the sense that we have to observe the moon every month. So it tethers us to that system. Whenever we observe the moon, that's when the new month starts. If we don't see it, then the previous month will be 30 days, and we just keep on going. So we've had no corrective. So this is one of the miracles, one of the important facts that we should just keep in the back of our minds that the Prophet ﷺ established. And it is so important. You might think, what's the big deal? There's actually a lot of politics when it comes to calendars. One time I bought this, I think it's like the Oxford book on calendars or something like, I'm a nerd like that. And I bought it. There's so much politics involved in how you establish the calendar, what you call it, when you establish it. And there are all these new trends in trying to have some kind of global system of calendar. There's a lot of politics involved. Even in our own community, even though we all know that we follow the same system, we have politics when the new month is going to start, particularly as it relates to important events like Ramadan and Dhul Hijjah for the Hajj. But it's so important that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself addresses it in the Quran. And he says in Surah At-Tawbah, إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شَهْرًا فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ يَوْمَ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Indeed, the months are 12 with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the moment He created the heavens and the earth. مِنْهَا أَرْبَعَةٌ حُرُمٌ. And from them are 4 that are sacred. Allah declares that one of the dimensions that He created us in is the dimension of time. And the time from the beginning of creation until our time are 12 months. 4 of them are sacred. Now this doesn't mean that we're not allowed to use another system of counting the days and the months. You can't be a farmer and farm based on the Hijri calendar, because the Hijri calendar is disconnected with the seasons. The solar calendar is linked to the seasons. So your secular life, your farming life, your dunya life, it's of course from the time of the Sahaba until our time, of course, is going to follow the solar calendar. But we have a liturgical calendar. We have a calendar that relates to our relationship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is because of that that we are reminded that 4 of those months are sacred. And this is one of those sacred months, the months of Rajab. The 3 other sacred months are all connected. Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram, the 11th, 12th, and 1st month. And that kind of makes sense because those are the months of Hajj. Dhul Qa'dah, people are preparing for Hajj and go. Dhul Hijjah is Hajj itself, with the Eid, the Arafah being on the 9th, the Eid being on the 10th, and then the Ayam al-Tashriq after that, the 2-3 days after that. And then there's time for people to return home and begin the new year and recalibrate. So it makes sense that those 90 odd days are together. But Allah so determined, subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His wisdom, that this month, Rajab, is one of those sacred months by itself, which is why one of the names of Rajab is Rajab al-Fard, the singular one. And it is unique to the point that in one of the hadiths, the Prophet ﷺ referred to this as the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rajab Shahrullah is the month of Allah. And Sha'ban, the next month, Shahri is my month, the month of the Prophet ﷺ. And then Ramadan, Shahru Ummati, Ramadan is the month of my community. So Allah Ta'ala reminds us, this is like you get your notice in the mail. It's time to put your affairs in order. Not that you're going to die, but put your affairs in order because Ramadan is around the corner. So Rajab begins the thinking that, you know what, in a month and a half, in 2 months, we're going to have this big event, which is Ramadan. And this is our notice that it's time to prepare for that. It's time to be aware that we have this month that's coming. The Prophet ﷺ, when Rajab would come in, he would make dua every day. Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab wa Sha'ban wa balighna Ramadan. Allah bless us in Rajab and Sha'ban and let us make it to Ramadan. Every day. And then when Sha'ban comes, Allahumma barik lana fi Sha'ban wa balighna Ramadan. Allah bless us in Sha'ban and let us arrive safely at Ramadan. So for 60 days, the Prophet ﷺ is anticipating in his daily dua, the month of Ramadan is coming. That's how important Ramadan is. And then for 6 months after Ramadan, the Sahaba would ask Allah every day that their fast be accepted. And for the 6 months before the month of Ramadan, they would ask Allah Ta'ala and anticipate the month of Ramadan, even before Rajab. What does it mean that these are sacred months? Legally speaking, in the Sharia, the sacred months are months in which we are not allowed to fight. They are months in which there is no warfare. There has to be a cessation of hostilities, unless somebody is attacked and they have to defend their homeland or something like that. And that is why the pre-Islamic Arabs used to play around with the month, because they wanted to constantly fight with one another, based on these tribal revenge, and they would get money and booty from these fights. So they wanted to move them out of the way as an obstacle, just move that obstacle so they can continue fighting. So they would reverse the months, add months, the 13th month, etc. But for us, we're not individual nations, we're just people. So what does that month mean for us? It's a month of turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are a host of hadith about the virtues of the month of Rajab. Many of those hadith are on the weak side. But the ulama of hadith universally understand and acknowledge that we act on the weak hadith, especially when it encourages us to do something good. So there are hadith about fasting in the month of Rajab. There are hadith about giving charity in the month of Rajab. They might be weak, but they're still good practices. Because it is a sacred month, the reward, inshallah, is compounded. And also, it prepares us for Ramadan. Ramadan is like a race, like a marathon. You don't just show up on the first day of the marathon and just start running. You have to train for that. And that training starts from now. The little that you do towards your spiritual, liturgical, religious life that you can do every day, it could be the most simple thing. You add one dua, or you pray 2 extra sunnah, or you're not praying on time, so you start praying on time, or you're not getting up for Fajr, so you start adjusting your sleep so you get up. The simplest act that you do now will have enormous impact 60 days from now, or now 50 days, or whatever it is, when Ramadan comes. Because that's when the real marathon, because we're going to add on top of all of this stuff, our fast. And we don't want that to be wasted. The first couple of days of Ramadan, you kind of feel like, okay, this is going to be a long month. Well, wallahi, all of us, by the end of Ramadan, we ask ourselves, where did the month? I can't believe it's over. I can't believe that it's gone. It's always like the first 2 days are a little slow, but other than that, it just like flies by. And we know that in those days, we'll talk about that. We know the benefits of fasting. We know the benefits of Ramadan. We know the benefits of Laylatul Qadr. We can't underestimate the power that this month offers us, the ability for our dua to be answered. Imagine that you ask Allah and your dua is answered, that you are guaranteed your forgiveness simply by showing up and fasting. Even if you don't do anything else in that month, Allah Ta'ala guarantees your forgiveness. So because of the enormity of that, the process begins in this month of Rajab. There is another event in the month of Rajab that is also important. That I will just flag it now. We'll talk about it in a couple of weeks, which is the Isra and the Mi'raj, the night journey and ascension of the Prophet ﷺ. We commemorate this event on the 27th, the eve of the 27th of Rajab. And this is the greatest miracle of the Prophet's prophetic life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That he took this night journey. Now, many of the Anbiya before the Prophet ﷺ journeyed. Hijrah is one of the sunnahs of the Anbiya. But it's that ascent, the Mi'raj of the Prophet ﷺ, and all that he witnessed and he experienced, that was so literally out of this world, so miraculous that it confirms the Prophet's place ﷺ in this family of Anbiya that Allah Ta'ala has sent. And in it are many lessons. Of course, the most important lesson for us is to reconnect with our prayer itself, because it is at this time of the Isra and Mi'raj that the 5 daily prayers were established as an obligation for us. So in effect, every time we pray and every time we say the tahiyyat at the end of the prayer, we are reliving, reenacting in a way that scene in which Allah Ta'ala gives directly to the Prophet ﷺ this prayer, this gift that comes as a connection between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we will talk about that, in a couple of weeks. We'll dedicate a whole khutbah to it, inshallah. The last thing I want to say about the month of Rajab is, and link it sort of to the here and now, is that we have an opportunity in the mosque that somebody has pledged to match all of the funds that are donated in the box up until April 20th, up till $50,000. So all of the money that's collected in the boxes from now until April 20th, we have a donor that will match up to $50,000. That says we can double our money just like that. And this is important for a few reasons. As you know, one of the most important things for us in the mosque is one of our policies. It's like an unofficial policies. We try not to bug you with fundraising throughout the year, except during the month of Ramadan. You know, Ramadan is a time where we're very open about our needs and our, to help sustain all of this. And all of that falls on me and Tarek and the board. So for personal reasons, I'm very excited because this will lessen my burden. If you give money now and we double it by April 20th, then I know we have 100K in the bag before Ramadan. It lessens my burden on the last 10 days of Ramadan when we're really, going all out trying to raise every cent from you guys that is possible. And it's also appropriate that we engage in this act now because it is the act of charity. Ramadan is the month of charity. The Prophet ﷺ was described as being the most generous of people and being the most generous of his normal state during the month of Ramadan. That in the month of Ramadan, he gave more than he usually would give. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ was not necessarily a wealthy person from the dunya point of view. But whatever little he had, he gave. He gave such to the point that there would be many weeks in which the fire was not lit in the Prophet's house, ﷺ, meaning that there was no food to cook. Meaning that he would give from his own food, literally take food away that he had for his own family and his own children to give to those that were less needy than himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was even more generous than that than during the month of Ramadan. So part of our religious experience is also to give. Because when you give, Allah will give you more. Giving is a sign of gratitude that Allah has given you something that you can liberate your attachment to it and to give. And Allah says, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are grateful, I will give you more. I will increase you. So giving in charity is the ultimate form of gratitude. Because you trust that Allah has given you this, whatever, $100, whatever it is, I'm going to free my attachment to it. I know that Allah will give me more and Allah will give you more. And you also know that you are donating to something that is pure and alhamdulillah, ongoing. And this is a form of ongoing sadaqah for you, for your family that's been deceased. All of the lessons that we have about charity and charitable giving. This mosque, everything that we experience, the lights, the microphone, the air condition, the grass, the attendants, even the police, the food that we have, everything, the carpet that we pray on, the bathroom, the water, every single thing that we enjoy in this mosque comes from you. Comes from the generosity of the community to establish that this place is a living monument and testament to your belief and your faith in the trust of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's being the sustainer, the one that can give, the one that can provide. So this is a tremendous opportunity. Not many mosques can say that we have somebody that will match up to $50,000 that we have from now until April 20th, etc. This in itself is a gift. So please use this opportunity seriously to give today, tomorrow, moving forward so that we can match it, so that inshallah these acts in the month of Rajab will add up, inshallah, and may we arrive safely in the month of Ramadan, and may Allah Ta'ala accept our pious acts. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم واستغفروه إنه هو الغفور. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا وقدوتنا وقرة أعيننا سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. A few announcements before the dua. We're praying, inshallah, for our brother Sheikh Hamid, who is recovering from surgery in the hospital. So may Allah Ta'ala give him shifa, inshallah, and may we see him back in the mosque sooner rather than later. And also for all of those who are ill and all of those in the community that have passed away, we ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to have mercy on them and to give shifa to those who are sick. Tonight's class will be at 7:30. We're continuing the signs of the end of time. We're getting into the juicy stuff, so you might want to attend starting now. Sunday morning class will be at 6:30 a.m. with Tarif. Also remember that this weekend is daylight saving, where we put the hour ahead. which will technically be Sunday early morning, so Saturday night, Sunday morning is daylight savings. All of your phones and stuff will do automatically. The dollar for dollar campaign, so from now until April 20th, we will remind you throughout the coming weeks, so please give. And very importantly is we have brother Musaddaq Qadri from the NIH. Is he up here or is he down? Assalamu alaikum. He's going to address us after the prayer about stuff related to the coronavirus. So please, after we finish the prayer, either wrap up the sunnah quickly, but we want to hear about the virus, about precautions. I know everyone is concerned, so it's our obligation to make sure that the mosque is safe for all of you, so we need to hear this kind of stuff. And if you have any concerns, you can talk to him afterwards. Don't come to me. I don't have a special magic dua. It's going to cure you from the virus. May Allah give you shifa, us shifa. But if you see me sneezing and coughing, push me away from the mosque. But we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from that virus and from all ill. We ask Allah ta'ala to bless us in this holy month of Rajab and to bless us in the month of Sha'ban. May we arrive safely in the month of Ramadan. May these months be months of blessings for us and our families and our communities. May Allah ta'ala lift us, place the light of faith in our heart. May He make us people of the Quran and people of the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We ask Allah ta'ala to have mercy and rahmah on our parents and those who have passed before us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless and protect our children. We ask Allah ta'ala to protect our schools and our businesses and our centers of learning. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us always from those who would seek harm against us. We ask Allah ta'ala to alleviate the suffering of our brothers and sisters wherever they are, the Uyghurs of China, the Rohingya, the Muslims of Syria and Iraq, and Kashmir, and all of the places where our brothers and sisters are suffering because of their faith and their conditions. We ask Allah Ta'ala to alleviate their suffering and to give us the strength and ability to help them. May our dua reach them and may our dua be a comfort for them. Allahumma ahdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt. Allahumma barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wa qina wasrif anna sharra ma qadayt. Allahumma taqabbal salatana wa siyamana. وقيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم أحينا مسلمين وأمتنا مسلمين واحشرنا يوم القيامة مع النبيين والصديقين والشهداء يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم تب علينا توبة نصوحة تطهرنا بها جسما وقلبا وروحا وانقلنا من دائرة سخطك إلى دائرة رضاك وافتح علينا فتوح العارفين بك. اللهم تقبل منا فإنك بنا راحم ولا تعذبنا فإنك علينا قادر. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا يا أرحم الراحمين واحشرنا تحت لواء نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم القيامة. اللهم اسقنا من يده الشريفة شربة ماء لا نظمأ بعدها أبدا ثم أدخلنا الجنة بغير حساب ولا سابقة عقاب ولا عتاب. اللهم متعنا بالنظر إلى وجهك الكريم في جنات الخلد يا رحيم. فاللهم ارحم حينا وميتنا وحاضرنا وغائبنا وارفع أيدي الأمم عنا وأقمنا بالحق وأقم الحق بنا. آمين 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 والحمد لله رب العالمين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.
الله أكبر وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Straighten the lines. Remember, there's overflow in the basement for the jets. Allahu Akbar. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
آمين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
آمين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.